Alright guys, so continuing on the series of cool Megadeth riffs, maybe we'll have like, 30 or 40 of these videos, I don't know, So in this one, I want you to understand the difference. I guess this is more like I'm learning too, so I just thought it'd be cool to make these videos. And I'm going to make my own kind of Megadeth type band here, so watch out for that. I haven't written anything yet or haven't recorded it, but it's something that I could probably do in one day, really quick. So see if you can spot the difference between this is a riff from This Is Your Life. Right, that signature E pedal, which basically, Dave Mustaine, I think he uses that a lot in all of his songs, and Metallica too, obviously, right? Most of their stuff. So if I play it like that, versus if I play it like this. So I'll do it back to back. Let me do that one again. Right? So, key thing here is that alternate picked chords. I would have never thought about this and probably ever, because, you're always, thinking about it as down picking all the time. Right? You're always thinking of down picking, but see how clunky this sounds if I down pick it, the timing won't be right. Now, before we get into this, Scott Ian actually used to have a video that used to be on YouTube that got pulled. But he talked about, his guitar stuff, and he talked about how important alternate picking is. So alternate picking is really important to all of this, because there's no way you can even play a single Megadeth song without alternate picking, or Metallica, or any of the thrash bands, because that is the fundamental thing. So alternate picking, I would actually say, is actually more important than down picking. Although down picking is good, right? Kerry King has said that anything below an eighth note or eighth note should be down picked, right? But without alternate picking, you can't play any of this stuff. So that's one thing on alternate picking. Now, no one probably would think of picking alternate chords. So that's what this is about. It's really cool, because if I play it like this, right, at first it may be kind of weird for you to get used to, but if I alternate pick that whole thing, alternate pick chords is what we're talking about. Right? Sounds almost just like the album, because it's alternate picked, at least according to Songster, right? That sounds about right. That's how they can get that, so, one sweeping fluid motion, not like this. It sounds kind of choppy, right? So to get the timing right, like Scott Ian said, right? Without alternate picking, you won't get all the timing right unless it's like, slower stuff, or, things like that. So that sounds almost like the album. Now I'll do it all down picking. You'll see how clunky it is. Right? You see how clunky it is. So same thing with, like, if you take a Metallica riff, for example, I'll have to play it a little bit slower because I haven't really played this riff. Hope I'm playing it right. But this is very much like Dave Mustaine stuff. This is what he said. They took a lot more from than they gave him credit for. This sounds very much like a Dave Mustaine riff. So now, I'm not sure how they're playing it, but if you alternate pick this, it'll become really easy. Now you can play that speed. right? So you can use this in your, maybe should I turn it up a little bit? You know, sometimes this doesn't come through well, but you have to trust that, you know, the sound is good. Sound is good. So we're doing the, you know, the hot plexi, which is kind of a JCM emulation pedal going into a Marshall DSL-1, and the same EQ that I talked about before, where I said, where I said, remember, go back to the video where we said, you know, JCM like, you know, turn a DSL-1 into a JCM like sound. So since I turned it up a little bit, I'll play it from the first thing, and we'll play both of those riffs. So this is the clunky way. Now alternate pick. You gotta get the timing right. I'll do it again. Fucked up again, sorry. So that sounds very fluid. Very much like the album. So if I do the Metallica riff the clunky way, right, it's doable. But if I alternate pick those chords, remember we're talking about not, I'll do a separate video on alternate picking by itself, but what's great about here is alternate picked chords, which is not something that most people would probably do. I would have never thought about doing it, you know. Again, I have never played that riff till like 5 minutes ago, so, you know, I'm kind of clunky on it. But if I play it slow, so when you're playing it that fast, if I downpick the whole thing, it'll be clunky. Right? So how are they doing it that fast? They're probably alternate picking it, would be my guess. Or they're doing it so fast that you don't know what they're doing, but most likely like that. And there's probably a bunch of other, you know, instances where this is used, you know. Even though a lot of them only talk about downpicking. Like Hetfield will only talk about downpicking. Mustaine will talk a lot about downpicking. But, like Scott Ian said, alternate picking is probably as important. According to me, alternate picking is more important. Downpicking just comes natural. Like that you probably don't, but you know, we're talking about chords, right? So it's just smoother. Then the Metallica riff. See, the more you play it, you get better at it. I've already gotten better at playing this riff since we started the video. So anyway, so I just thought that's cool. Because you almost never, remember when you learn from tab, it almost never tells you how to pick. Right? It doesn't tell you how to pick. In this tab, it said, you know, alternate pick, and I was like, how the fuck, what the fuck is that? You know, as far as like chords, because we're always doing this. Right? You alternate pick single notes. But you typically don't think of, you know, chords as being alternate picked. So I just thought that's cool. That's the coolest thing about that riff is not only the way it's constructed, but how it's played smoothly. And it works nicely to where you start off with alternate pick chords, and then you go down pick. anyway, there's probably a whole bunch of, other riffs where you can use this kind of stuff. So I would think if something is too clunky to play, and you're like, man, I wonder how they're playing those, chords that quick, it's probably alternate pick chords. Because if I play this down pick, it's clunky. Alright, alternate pick it. That's when Ride the Lightning, I think. Anyway, that's it. I think that's cool. That's something that, now you can kind of go to town with it, right? You can kind of go like, I don't want to write anything. But, you can just kind of play around with it. Like, even when it's supposed to be down picked, you can just kind of play around with it with alternate pick, Maybe like, so this is all down picked. If I alternate pick those chords a little bit, it could work. So that's pretty much it. I think as far as thrash is concerned, right, you couldn't even play one complete Megadeth song without some kind of alternate picking. Especially if you're doing, pedaling and stuff like that. Let's play that other riff alternate pick just to see what it would sound like. Play, right? Right, if I alternate pick that, what would that sound like? I don't know. I'm just trying it out. So, in something like that, it's probably not used because there's so much space there, so you don't have to worry about that, timing aspect of it, where it's a little bit more. This is more tightly compact. It works beautifully right here. Alternate pick, down pick. Almost too clunky. And kind of amateurish, right? If I play it like this, it's amateurish. Alternate. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I'll try to do more of these lessons, probably more, cool ones later on, okay? More cool riffs later on.